So I've been working on a quoting system similar to what you wanted in your system. So basically, Magento as a whole is really just an order uh, shopping cart system. And I had a customer a few months back come to me and needed basically the same thing that you guys were looking for. Um, so what they have is the shopping cart and then a quote cart. So my quotes as well as the actual shopping cart that they will utilize to check out at that moment. The reason why we had to do it this way was for the promotional items and um, that kind of thing. So like the way the Magento system works is you have to use like your promotional items. We would have to have it added into the cart. So creating quotes either on the back end, like you were talking about, or on the front end. They can save them then, multiple quotes, and then they can, you know, submit them, and then it will be forwarded to um, whoever they have in their email address chain, and then they can be approved. They can come back in and then either process it, you can limit it, or they can limit it and then process that order at that time. So, for example, in this specific instance of this cart, now this is all open source, so we can make changes to however you want it to look and feel. But they have an add to cart and then they have an add to quote. Two totally different functions. The reason why Medicus wanted this was customers who buy in volume wanted to add a quote, and then what happens then is Medicus grabs that quote in the back end, plugs it all in, and then creates the order for them, and then they can pay it on whatever terms they're using. So very similar to the add to cart function. You can just add it, adds it in there. They can add whatever ones they want. Um, oops. They can add obviously multiple products. Um, Once again, they didn't want the add to cart button and the add to quote on that specific page, but in this particular case, they wanted it on the product page. You can also eliminate the add to cart or add to quote button, and you can actually have it when they get to the checkout, they can just convert it there. So, for example, um, well, this is what the quote cart area. We've got a custom uh, text field as well as in this particular case, uh, phone and email, who it's going to be sent to. If you're logged in with their account, which I'm assuming you guys will be set up like a portal, this will not be there. It'll automatically be signed in, and then all this information. Um, we can customize whatever fields you want in there. We don't have to add any more fields. You can just leave it as is. So then once this is submitted, then you guys would get a notification as well as the individual that filled it out. And so then what I'll show you what the back end looks like. So the Magento system by default has orders and then like shipments and all the normal stuff you get in a shopping cart. In this particular case though, we added the request to quote function and they needed a lot of customization, so that's one of the reasons why it took me long to get back to you guys on this because of how they wanted it laid out. By default, if we go with just the standard template, which they don't have, and we use um, some other more simple functions, they wanted all the dollar amounts ripped out for the customer, not the standard MSRP. They just needed a lot of things. It's not an issue. It just took a while. So this being the quotes area, so a backend admin can come in and take a look at all of this and view the quote. There can be an approval process, or a non, or you can just automatically approve it, so the customer can just when they check out, um, or when they come back in, they would just see their quotes in there. So then at that point, they can convert it to the shopping cart and then create the order. So they could do multiple quotes, add all of that into the shopping cart, or they could just do each individual one. So kind of what the back end looks like. They get an email, and they can the back end admin here can make any changes to the order they want. They can change the dollar amounts. They can change anything really. They can add additional items and then add it back into the quote. Same thing with coming in here. You can create a new quote for the customer. Oops. Um, so you can add products into the quote. You can put them into the specific group that are in. If they are in a different group, their email address, all the information they need, customizable. And then hit submit quote. They will get their quote, and then they can then add it into their cart at that point as well. Or you can do the checkout process for them by going into the orders area and creating a new order. So a new order, this is just the standard Magento platform order system. So you can say, I want to look up the email address associated with the account that you want to process the order through. And then you can just add whatever products you want in there. So here's all the products. Once those products are added in, then you'd come down here, you'd go through basically all the other order attributes. You'd select what order the billing and shipping addresses, which would most likely be filled in, that would come in from your ERP or SAP. The payment methods would be here, as well as getting the shipping methods. Once that's in place, and you've added all the dollar cost, like anything discounted within the this order process, so you can basically, because you are the admin, you can change the dollar amounts. So you could do the discounts. The shopping cart rules do not work in the back end here. It's possibly something that we can integrate in, but ultimately, probably if you're really looking to do all those shopping cart price rules and everything, you could add these items to their cart and then go into through the front end of the site and do it that way. Doing it through the front end of the site gives you the knowledge for the customer as well, and it's really pretty easy to do. One other way, I know that you guys had a front end order system that was kind of more modular, or not modular, but like quick search and add to the cart without actually having like a catalog or a grid. Let me show you what I'm thinking you guys would want to have on the front end with the quoting and the add to cart functions. So kind of similar to what you guys kind of have right now, but this is kind of more or less like the quick way for an individual to make an order. So we had talked about, just adding SKUs into like a CSV file and uploading it. This gives you the ability to add multiple products in at once through a file. So you could add all the SKUs in. So if you had ABC and 1, 2, 3 and XYZ, those were SKUs. You just add them to the list, and if they were in there, they would just show up here. You could also do it by a file, and it gives the customer the XML file data as well as the CSV file. Once again, we can customize this to however you guys need it. So in this particular case, let me see if I can find some products. Just one second. All right, so some demo products we can use. I'm just going to type in the search field top. So what you'll see here is then the search just brings up any of the SKU numbers. So you could say WS03, WS03, and it would just bring up that one particular product. You can say how many you want. But in this particular case, what I would see is, like an add to cart as well as the add to quote. So you can real quickly on the fly do that. Because this has multiple items like that, you can just, add it in. um, let's just do shirt. I'm sure that they've got shirts in there. So once again, you've got all these different shirt options. Um, you can add them in, and you add them on the fly like this, but then you'll have to pick the options as you come in. So it says you need to choose the options. And you got to pick the colors. But you can kind of see how easy that is. Okay, and then actually, as you can see, they already have the add to quote function loaded in, so that you can add the quote, or you can add to cart, or you can check out. So adding it to the quote allows you to save this for later times in a grouping, and then obviously checking out would then go into the SAP ERP system at that point after the order is processed. So hopefully that explains a little bit to the differences between quoting and ordering itself. So once you're done with adding it into your quote, you can always go back into, and I'll show you what that looks like, which is your back end panel, the customer's back end panel. They can see all their quotes in there. So what you'll see in here is orders and quotes. Quotes, then they can click on it, and um, because they have the approval process put in place, it has to get approved before um, the in particular with the quotes. You can either allow the customer to change the prices, which I don't know why you would do that, but that's why there's an approval process. So in the particular case of what you guys would want, it would be adding it to their quotes, and then at that point, then doing the checkout process at that point. So then they can move it to their cart, and then go to checkout. So same thing you're seeing here is the checkout, and then they also have the request to quote button as well. So hope that makes sense. And if you guys got any questions, let me know.